Hey, this is Brandon, aka The Life of Me in Poetry, and I wrote this poem this morning. I just wrote it. It's fresh. It's called Build That Wall. And just long story short, I have 2 kids out of wedlock, and I feel like that most Christians, they, especially the women, they hold that against me as if I'm not worthy to have something good in my life because my past mistakes. And I really think that that's not fair, because if that's the case, then the church is not worthy to have Christ, because Christ was pure, Christ was a virgin, Christ had never sinned, Christ was in heaven, he was in a perfect place, and he came from a perfect place, and he died for a woman, for a church that was filthy, that was a whore. She's cheated on him. She's been unfaithful to him for 6,000 years. This has been the condition of his marriage between him and this woman. And yet he's never treated her any different. So I believe that most Christians have a policy that Christ himself don't even have. And so I pray that this poem bless you. It is called Build That Wall. I'm just a man. I can't atone for the mistakes I did or change the fact that without being married, I had 2 kids. I didn't know that it would affect the way people view me as a person, like I'm not worthy of your attention because the past and what I've mentioned. It hurts that most Christians, the supposed light of the earth, are the ones who cast judgment and reject you first. It's sad. For we have a policy Christ himself never had. You think my kids are baggage. Well, your sins like maggots. Christ took upon himself and nailed to the cross. I think we really need to analyze the wage that sin costs. Because you may be a virgin, never making the mistakes I did, or held yourself in your 30s not having kids because you have a college degree, a nice family tree. Somehow that makes you better than me. Like I'm not worthy enough to choose. You have that right, you do. Yet Christ is distinctly different from you, for he had heaven, the adoration of angels, a glorious throne, a heavenly home, with beauty surpassed, but he gave it all up, that him being first became last. He found his wife in coach, he never looked in first class. That woman in Revelation chapter 12, clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, with a crown of 12 stars upon her head, was at one point dead in trespasses and sins. She wasn't always a virgin. Revelation chapter 12 was after her conversion. Read Jeremiah chapter 3 and you'll see the 2 women in Revelation at some point were alike. Yet one of them repented and gave their life to Christ, surely as a wife treacherously departed from her husband, so have ye dealt treacherously with me, O house of Israel, saith the Lord. This is the woman he adores, even while she was his enemy, gave his life for. Before you look at me, survey the past, for you have a policy Christ himself never had. Me and the man with a felony has one thing in common. He's rejected by employers. I'm rejected by a woman. People criticize Trump, yet they're guilty of the same, building social walls, restricting all that do not fit the status quo. Before you look at me, survey the past, for you have a policy Christ himself never had, for you have built that wall.